The other thing for me is sports broadcasting and how these games are being divvied up. You look at the new NBA deal that'll be coming up at the end of this year, right? And all the spaces the NBA is going to be on. It's going to be on Amazon. It's going to be on Peacock, right? You look at the NFL. You saw the Christmas Day games on Netflix, even though the product was not good and everybody won't talk about it because it's NFL. But if it's the NBA has a problem with the product,
Right.
of course. makes no sense. People just keep telling on themselves about what they kind of don't like about the NBA. But that's a whole nother story for another day. I wonder if we're getting to this point, right, where the spaces to watch these games are getting too spaced out, right? And people are going to be like, yo, can I watch this here? What about people who don't? I know this is going to sound weird to some people that I'm saying this, but what about the people who don't have Amazon Prime and can't watch these NBA games on a Thursday night? Only like 30% of the population has Amazon Prime. I think a lot of people think more people have it than do. Like I do. I've been an Amazon Prime subscriber for years. Right. I understand all that. I love Amazon Prime. Don't necessarily like some of the people around it, but you get my point with all this stuff. Is there accessibility issues for everybody? And are people getting priced out with all these streaming services? People have to make decisions. Do I want Peacock? Do I need Peacock? Maybe you'll get it if you're an NBA fan, but maybe you won't. Do you want Amazon? There's all these decisions people have to make. And what's the tipping point for all that when you spread your content out among all these different platforms? That's something I think that's something to watch for. Does the consumer really want it as spread out as it is now? I think in terms of streaming and being able to watch it in multiple places and being able to watch it on your phone is fantastic. But if you have so many places, people aren't trying to pay for all these different streaming services. At some point, there's going to be a tipping point. And how does that affect sports?
I think we're getting closer to that because every year shit goes up. Just that simple, right? Like this was a big part of what played into this last election. Now, you and I have thoughts on that, that we won't turn this into an election episode. But a lot of people felt like they were voting the correct way, which we'll see about that in terms of like stopping inflation, so to speak. And with sports broadcasting rights, YouTube TV went up again. Netflix is always going up, and now they're making it harder for you to share passwords and shit like that. I think it's going to come into play because there are some people who, I mean, my father gets pissed when Met games are on Apple TV Plus because it doesn't have Apple TV Plus. And, you know, I got to go on website not to be named to send the link to watch because I don't have Apple TV Plus. And I'm making the calculation like I could afford all of them if I want. But if that's the case, like, why don't I just go back to doing cable? Like as someone who, you know, I use YouTube TV, obviously. We both do. And we also use like Hulu and Max. And then once you get to a certain point in Netflix and Amazon Prime, it's like, all right, how much? Like, this is a lot. This is spread. And we're people who like could afford this stuff. But like, I mean, we're not rolling in fucking money either.
No, and I literally had a conversation with one of my boys the other day because I'm also, you know, you just mentioned it. I'm a YouTube TV subscriber. I've been using YouTube TV, I think, for 6-7 years now. I can't even recall what is going on. But I'm at the point now where I'm like, yo, is it worth it? Because I don't watch anything else on live TV outside of sports. So all I really need it for is ESPN or I guess TNT or some of the local stations for football that I'll watch for work. But I have ESPN Plus, so I could watch ESPN there if I wanted to, right?
That's another one. Disney Plus is another one.
Right. Disney Plus is one I have. I have a daughter. She gets used to the Disney Plus. I don't know.
I'm a boxing consumer, so like I have to have Disney Plus because of the Top Rank deal, which is actually supposed to be expiring this year. So we'll see if that's even going to continue.
But I'm starting to actually question, do I need YouTube TV? Right? Like, is it really worth the value of what I'm paying for? There might become a point where I could be like, I may not. I actually may not need it anymore. Right? Like outside for some like local stuff. Some of the local regional channels aren't even on there anymore. So what am I paying the $80? And here's the thing. What am I paying the $80 for? I love YouTube TV as a product. Like I've actually loved the service of it. I love the integration of League Pass into it. It is fantastic. The highlights they put for sports. YouTube TV is a fantastic product. But it's getting to the point where is it worth what I'm paying for what I actually watch and how much I do watch it? Kind of leading to no. So yeah, there's a tipping point for everything, and I might cut that, because the price is also getting close to what we were paying with cable. You cut the cord to save the money. I think truly what you're pushing towards in media is what people really want, but I don't know if it's going to happen because you still have these old cable companies hanging on. People want out true a la carte media, but are we going to get that where you can pay for exactly what you want to watch? I think we're still a ways away from that, but it's what I think we're eventually headed to.
We've already heard reports about like a super streaming service where it's like the super league of streaming services where it's supposed to be ESPN, Fox, and I forget who else. But like, I feel like that's probably the next step where a couple of the big ones are just going to continue to link up, and we're going to continue to have mergers, which also means we're going to continue to have mass layoffs for a lot of people who work. But like, this is what happened with Max, where they had to deal with Paramount, HBO and Paramount. They merge, they create Max. A lot of people get laid off because, of course, that's what happens when mergers happen. And also, a lot of the content that people wanted from HBO Max is not even there anymore. Like, people keep talking about like, oh, like Static Shock is not there, cartoons aren't there, and this has become like more than a sports discussion. But this is like sort of where we're at in terms of media consumption. And I think, you know, as you watch, like the NBA is going to be on Amazon now, and like baseball and that regional product in terms of like that regional deal, Bally's came and went. And now we have FanDuel, like sports network, which is a whole other thing because now you're bringing the gambling money into like the actual broadcast. And as somebody who profits off of gambling money, like I think that that's sort of wishy-washy. Like I don't really know what we're doing. Like I think people are just throwing, like just trying shit, which is.
I think people are trying shit, they're throwing it at the wall, but you're starting to see a lot of these networks kind of doing what the cable companies did right before. It's just changing over into that. Like they're looking to the mergers. The networks themselves are becoming the cable companies, but they're trying to figure out what people want and how you can bundle it together. You're going to get people to pay for things that they need. Like, look, I'll explain this in this way. I'm a Peacock subscriber. I'm going to be straight up honest with all of y'all. I don't watch really anything on Peacock other than Liverpool football. I'm a big Liverpool football fan. I have it for that. So when the games aren't on USA that I can watch them there. I've watched maybe like 2 other shows on Peacock. I've watched a couple seasons of Bel Air, and actually, I can't even tell you what else I've watched on Peacock. Now, Peacock will have the NBA. So now I got the NBA and I got the EPL on there. 2 leagues that I follow very closely.
And I have the WWE.
I forgot about that. They're getting WWE. But see, that's an interesting thing. Now you got NBA fans, you got EPL fans. I am not a WWE fan. You are. You're not an EPL fan. But if you got 2 of the 3 things there, you might be inclined to pay the $7.99. Just 3 years ago, I was paying $4.99 for Peacock to watch my Liverpool games. It's gone up $3 in 3 years. And am I going anywhere? No, because they're like, where else are you going to watch these Liverpool games? Well, I could tell you where else I could watch it, but I'm not going to say that here. However, I understand what's happening. It's a little supply and demand. And can you bring the biggest groups of people together to your network or streaming platform to get them to watch? That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to cast a super wide net. Bringing wrestling, I think, is going to be huge for Peacock, to be honest.
Yeah, and it's been there and it's doing well. And
yeah, I'm not a wrestling fan, but I understand what that's going to do.
Yeah.
Like think about it. They are great properties. You got the EPL, which if you're like me, it's one of the popular, biggest, if not the most popular soccer league in the world. Then you've got the NBA, the best basketball league in the world. And you've got pro wrestling. No matter how you feel about pro wrestling, that is a lot of eyeballs.
Yeah. And now they're going to have the Netflix deal, which has begun at the time that this is out. And I mean, that's going to add another layer to it. Okay, let's get to mine.